What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us is a really interesting knife from We that has, at least to my perspective, one serious fatal flaw. But we'll talk about that in a minute. First, let's talk about what is right about this knife. And there are many, many things right about this knife. First, it's enormous. That always makes me happy. As you can see, even for my big old mitts, this is a real hand filler. When I say it's big, what are we talking about here? Well, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9¼ inches long. It is a big, long knife. The blade itself is about 4 7/8. Well, let's see, 3 7/8 cutting on about 4½ inches of S35 VN. It is relatively thin stock, which means you get a nice, slicey cutting edge. And they did a great job. It's beautiful. The fit and finish is amazing. The place where the carbon fiber touches the titanium bolsters on both sides is flawless. This is We building the knife beautifully. Let's talk about what isn't so great. This is a backlock. Now, backlocks have a long history. There's lots of versions of them. One of my favorites is, of course, the 8010, which the triad lock is a form of backlock. And in this lock, right, this mechanism lifts. It has a catch in here that this lever attaches to. You can hear it snap into place, right? It locks it in. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. When you release it, if you move your finger forward on the knife, you can drop it down without cutting your finger off and then close the knife. And the thumb studs, unless I'm on camera and making a fool of myself, there we go, work perfectly. This is a well-done backlock style. The triad lock is similar in design, done right. The Blocao, B-L-O-C-A-O. You make up your own mind on how to say that. I don't know. By We here has a problem, and that's this. The backlock is also the closed detent. So you get to this point, it's free, it's on bearings, so it's super soft and super smooth, which is great. In order to close it, you push it past this little spot right here, and you can hear it click into place. That's fine, except that's also the problem. So here's the thing, right? If you thumb stud it without enough force, it guillotines back and can take off part of your fingers because it is very slicey and very thin. If you try to just roll it open, see how it popped away from my thumb right here? I'll do it again. It gets away from you. And if you have smaller hands than I do and you have rolled them forward, when it gets away, it can come back down and catch your fingers. In order to open this knife with the thumb studs without rolling it and sort of, there you go, and catching it and doing it that way, you very much have to give this thing a ton of force. Look, I know it sounds silly to say that a knife is a cutting hazard, but this thing is a cutting hazard to the user until you spend a fair amount of time practicing on how to open it. Closing it is no better because of where this backlock is and the distance from here to here and where the backlock is on the handles. You cannot get to it really to close it one-handed. Now, a lot of you aren't going to care. You're going to say, well, just take it with two hands and close it. But there's no information on that in the box. Most knife users today are used to knives that either when you hit them with the thumb studs, roll open slowly, or snap right open. My stepson is very good with knives. You would imagine being around me. He was good at knives when I met him. But he's gotten exponentially better in the time that my collection has sort of entered the situation. And I wouldn't hand him this knife. Not because he doesn't have competence, but because he's used to all the other knives I own. He would have cut his fingers with this. Now, I've been practicing, so I can thumb flick this thing open pretty much every time. But while I was practicing for this video, I still missed. And when you miss, let's pop it open. See how it swings back? You have to be very, very careful. And that is a real disappointment because there are knives like this that never fail. And if you want hard use in the same price range, this one's assisted, of course, but also never fails. I'm not saying that a knife needs to be the simplest thing in the world to use. I am saying that making one that risks the user right out of the box seems a little silly to me. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a knife collector that has a YouTube channel. It's a shame because the good here is very, very good. It is beautiful. It is well made. And I mean, it is very well made. Now, I saw this knife at Blade Show West, and I passed on it because of this backlog. It's not really the kind of knife that I would want anyway because of the... See? I missed. And unlike most knives, when you miss like that, unless you happen to be holding it just like I was so you could see it on the camera, that is a very unforgiving mistake. I missed again. I don't like to do negative reviews. You guys know that. I don't like to talk about knives that I don't enjoy. This knife is disappointing for two reasons. One, I love everything about it except the locking mechanism. And I know that that's supposed to be its party piece. This is supposed to be sort of an elegant hard user, which brings us back to the question of why they put it on bearings in the first place. A reviewer recently mentioned that if it was on washers, the action might be a little slower, and that might have helped. But putting this thing on ball bearings just turned it into a guillotine for your fingers in a way that I cannot get past. I guess that's really where I'm going to end. And that's super disappointing because you guys know, visually, this is such a knife for me. I mean, it's big. It's bigger than the 8010, which is a big knife. And of course, it's bigger than our old friend, you know, the Rat Model 1, which is 8010 size. It's beautiful. It's got thumb studs, and I love thumb studs. But, look, I suppose if I was going to have one knife, one big S35 VN knife to take out into the field, well, it wouldn't be this thing anyway because it's too elegant looking. This is a hard use fashion knife. And that kind of bugs me. I mean, if you're going to have a hard use knife, again, get something like that. Or the Benchmade Velation here. Sure, the WE has a lot more blade, but both of these are purpose-built for hard use and really speak to that. If you really want to go crazy, spend the money and get yourself one of these. The XM24, which is absurdly expensive, but exponentially better at the hard use tasks that the WE Blocao or Blocao seems to be designed for. I love when designers try new stuff. I do. I think it's really exciting. What I don't love is when they seem to try new stuff without a final direction or destination. I kind of feel like that's what's going on here. This thing is hollow ground a little bit. Well, maybe that's flat. I thought in the light it looked hollow ground. I don't know. I know it's very slicey. It's a beautiful blade on a beautiful handle with, as I said, one fatal flaw, which would keep me from not only owning this knife, but recommending it. And that is where we're going to close. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like the video on your way out because it helps the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I'd love to have you here on a regular basis. I'll see you guys next time.